Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are back once again to continue our WrestleMania project, this time working on WrestleMania 30, which took place on April 6, 2014, in New Orleans, Louisiana, at Mercedes Benz Superdome. The announced attendance was 75,167, although several sources outside of WWE list 60 to 65,000, which is a bit of a difference. And I don't think anything new to WWE, those inflated numbers. But regardless, the announced attendance was 75, so we'll just go somewhere in the middle. We'll call it 67. The tagline for this one was "Let the good times roll." And this was the very first WrestleMania to be featured on the WWE Network. Talking about that $9.99 purchase price on the show, we truly, especially over here in the states, truly didn't. We took for granted how good we had it. Before we get into the first match of the evening, we did have about 25-30 minutes of promo between Hogan, Austin, and The Rock. Normally, I wouldn't mention this kind of thing, but the infamous WWFE promo by Hogan, as well as the iconic, the Silverdome brother, and when he realized he should have said Superdome. So it was just a hilarious moment, and he definitely got poked some fun at by both The Rock and Austin, of course. But it's really a hilarious promo to start off the show, and a cool moment between The Rock, Austin, and Hogan at the 30th WrestleMania. So, getting into the first match of the evening, we have Daniel Bryan going up against Triple H with Stephanie McMahon, the winner of this match to be included in the main event for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. KP, thoughts on the opening contest, kind of comparatively speaking? Obviously, this is the 30th time we've done this. It's a really crazy stat on its own, about three-fourths of the way done with this project, which seems unreal to me. But curious what you thought of this match and just kind of what you thought of it as an opening contest, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, as far as WrestleMania openers go, this is probably one of the best openers I think we've seen so far. But yeah, in terms of how this one just went down, it was just very, very good. Like you could sense the importance of it from the very, very start. Obviously, the crowd being so behind Daniel Bryan and so against Triple H, it was literally just like good against evil. Literally, as black and white as 101 as it gets in this sort of situation. And yeah, it was just a really, really good, solid match and opener. Both men had a classic performance to kick off WrestleMania, and they gave it everything, which made for some really tense moments throughout the entire matchup. We saw Bryan kicking out of a pedigree at one point, which just that got a really big pop. The character work from Triple H here was exceptional. I thought. I think you've mentioned before, growing up, you always used to go to Triple H as like the guy that you absolutely loathed and detested, very, very strongly. And this was sort of that Triple H sort of coming back out again here, I thought, like in my opinion. Just like standing up to the good guy and, trying to keep him down and, just planting his authority, you could say, on the situation. So, yeah, it definitely gave me sort of like throwbacks to those earliest stages in Triple H's career, the role that he was playing in this one. He did such a good job of playing that as well. But yeah, in terms of how we got to the end of this contest, so Triple H looks for his second pedigree of the match, but Bryan reverses it into a really nice bridging pin. Triple H kicks out of it though, and he keeps hold of like the pedigree, the double underhook for the pedigree. They both get back up to their feet. He attempts it again, but this time Bryan gets out of it once more and lands a kick to Triple H's head. He gets out of the situation and basically just hits a big flying knee to Triple H after hitting the kick, and that would be enough to get the victory for Daniel Bryan here in this opening matchup. But yeah, it was just exceptional. Really, really good matchup. Like I say, Daniel Bryan had to fight through everything. He'd already been nursing an injury going into this one, with a shoulder being taped up and bandaged on there, trying to give him some support. But yeah, just the selling from Bryan was really, really good too, and that doesn't stop there. Going through for the rest of the show. Post matchup, we see Stephanie McMahon, who's obviously been at ringside for this one, supporting Triple H. Iconic entrance from Triple H going into this matchup, by the way. We see Stephanie slap Bryan, not once, not twice, but three times. And as Bryan's sort of like laughing it off and trying to sort of like remain calm under the situation, Triple H just blindsides him from behind. He ends up smashing Bryan's shoulder against the ring post before then before smashing the shoulder against that ring post with a steel chair moments afterwards as well. He then leaves with Stephanie McMahon. They head up the ramp, basically just laughing about what they've just accomplished. And yeah, although Triple H didn't go into the main event matchup, Daniel Bryan does. He earns a spot in the WWE World Heavyweight Championship match against Batista and Randy Orton. And it is Triple H, I guess, that has the last laugh in this one. But yeah, Daniel Bryan, not in a good way, but a really good matchup to kick things off here. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I loved the back and forth, just the importance of it, the crowd, everything about it just worked really, really well. The two just gelling together, good and bad. Yeah, it was a great start. Nick, what did you make of this one? Was it as what I'm making it out to be? What was your general thoughts about the matchup and just generally how it sort of flowed and the work from both men in this one, I think, made it what it was.
Yeah, this is arguably one of the best kickoff matches at the time, going back, you know, through 30 manias for me. Um, I think most people know this already, but the women's scene on the side of Triple H and his entrance were none other than Sasha Banks, Charlotte, and Alexa Bliss. Cool to see that kind of in hindsight and knowing that help was on the way, if you will. Um, but yeah, this match is brutal. You had the usual Triple H kind of wear and tear style. Um, that going against the already taped up and bandaged Daniel Bryan just made it all the more brutal in itself. On top of all that, you have the insufferable Stephanie McMahon on the sidelines, who was really had her volume turned up in terms of how annoying she was trying to be. Who, for me, has the ability to be one of the most annoying heel personalities in the business. Just truly one of the worst. And what I mean by that is one of the best at getting under your skin. Yes, Chance feeling the Superdome, and then that crowd when Brian hit that last knee to get the win. Just truly a really fun and special match. With the attack afterwards, of course, as if pulling double duty wasn't quite enough for Daniel Bryan. It almost makes the stakes a little too high, I could argue, but we'll get a little more into that with the main event. But yeah, just for this match, kind of sitting on its own, I thought was truly a special match. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, I'm not sure what was keeping it from a 10, but regardless, this is a really, really fun contest and one of the best opening contests so far through 30 Manias. Getting into the next match is a match I rate not quite as high as the first one, but we do have this Shield here going up against Kane and the New Age Outlaws. Um, KP, this is an interesting contest. I'm not quite sure. I get what they were doing story wise, but in terms of what they painted out here in the match, it was an interesting call. But what did you make of this one?
Interesting call is definitely one way of putting it. Not really much you can say about this one. It was extremely one-sided and very, very quick. I've never used this term. Actually, no, sorry. I think we used this term once during this run so far of us reviewing these WrestleMania matches, and I used the word squash, and this was essentially that. Because the Shield, they looked fantastic. There's absolutely no question that they looked phenomenal during this matchup, and they were the ones that basically had the light shining upon them. Um, they absolutely dominated, literally from start to finish. New Age Outlaws and Kane didn't really get anything in at all. The match felt quite rushed because I'm guessing maybe things were overrunning or they just weren't allowed to have a lot of time for this one. Maybe their sole purpose was to literally just have the Shield batter these guys, and that was literally that. I'm not too sure, but it felt really rushed. Not much of a chance to show everybody off. Even the three guys in the Shield, like, Roman, Seth, and Dean, they had little bits here and there, but I wouldn't say they exactly showed themselves off that much. But for what they had, the time that they played with what they did during the time was quite explosive, and there was a fair bit to sort of like take from it in terms of like it was constant non-stop action. But yeah, it like I said, completely one-sided and may as well have been basically like a Raw or SmackDown match, to be honest. But I'm guessing you want to make a statement on the WrestleMania stage. These guys were absolutely flying at this point in their careers. rising right up the ranks. So I guess this is a way of making that statement. To be fair, in terms of how the match played out in the end, we do see Roman Reigns getting tagged in, and he immediately goes through his series of tricks. Just going through the classic Roman Reigns moves, that kind of thing, sequencing moves together, and that leads to Rollins and Ambrose diving to the outside, taking out the New Age Outlaws. Roman gets a spear on Kane, and then all three of the Shield hit the power bomb onto the New Age Outlaws. That sees the victory in the end here. We see a Roman Reigns double spear as well on the New Age Outlaws as part of that whole sequence situation. But yeah, the dominance from the Shield was crazy in this matchup. Went by so quickly, it was rushed, but it was I guess it was clear what they tried to do here. I gave it a 4.5 out of 10. I don't really know how to rate this one because I feel like you take a match itself and then you take a showcase. I feel like it's something in between the two of them. Maybe more so on the side of showcase for the Shield and just proving their dominance. I mean, if that's the case, on fair play, they did a job well done. But 4.5, because I've got to go for match quality as well. I think it comes into B for this one. And I think 4.5, I guess, is around somewhere fair. But Nick, what about you? Is your rating similar to that one? Or is it maybe a little higher or lower? What's your thoughts? Because this is quite a difficult one to rate. They had one clear goal, and I guess they achieved it.
Yeah, and there were a couple of matches on this card that I truly had trouble rating, but not kind of like for the standard reasons that we typically have. But I think commentary team kind of hit on this kind of as the match was starting was how the Shield had been just absolutely dominant over the last year. And if I'm watching this match for the first time, I have 0% confidence that these three veterans, I think it's safe to say, are definitely towards the latter part of their career, referring to Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and Kane. Why would I think that these three men are the ones that are going to stop that? Said dominance and be able to stop this absolute tear that the Shield has been on, and they don't. They don't show it, like you kind of mentioned. They don't show any signs of doing that. So, yeah, just an interesting call. And because if their point here was to make a statement, I feel like beating someone kind of more noteworthy at the time probably would have made a better statement. But regardless, this is what we got. I too gave this one a 4.5 out of 10, and yeah, a glorified squash match, if you will, if you even want to call it a glorified one, just because it was on the Mania stage, I guess is the argument you can make. But regardless, yeah, interesting call to have this kind of go down the way it did. Getting into the next match, we have the inaugural Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Little did we know this match would end up meaning absolutely nothing, but at the time, it was a big deal. Yeah, KP, thoughts on this match and kind of what we got? Yeah, it truly did feel like a big deal. So curious to hear what you thought about this one.
Yeah, this is really fascinating because I think you look at these matches now, and obviously they're no longer on the WrestleMania show. They're on like the SmackDown beforehand. But you look back on this and you think to yourself, wow, this actually genuinely is presented like a really big deal. Whereas comparatively now, it's just absolutely not. Like you said, it's a really good point to make there. But yeah, in terms of like how this one just sort of came to be, it actually felt like a decent battle royal, not gonna lie. It was quite fun. The second half especially. The first half was maybe a little bit slow to get things started. There's so many people in the ring. You can't really tell what's going on. That comes with these sort of matches. I feel like that's an expectancy. It's not really a surprise. So yeah, we see a lot of people get eliminated. A lot of the time, no one's really mentioned as being eliminated as well. It's quite almost like flat delivery from the commentary team. And yeah, once we do go into that second half, it does get quite fun and quite quite interesting to actually watch it take place. The first half did feel a bit filler though, which is the only issue really. But yeah, once the ring did empty, it got good, quite entertaining, and like people started to have like individual moments. There was some coming togethers, which is quite entertaining. And then yeah, we do get to a position in the end where we see Cesaro and Big Show being the last two remaining in this match. And Big Show is the odds-on favorite, the absolute standout guy going into this one that everyone thinks is going to win the matchup for obvious reasons. The size of the man in a battle royal like this, you expect it. And, being the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, who else than Big Show to win this matchup? It just makes sense. But Cesaro, he does avoid a sort of like carry position from the Big Show. He lands on his feet. And he hits a big uppercut after already landing a couple of moments ago anyway. and he allows himself to sort of like have a moment where he just literally adrenaline sort of picks up the Big Show and just like throws him over the top rope, just watching him just sort of crash to the floor. And yeah, Cesaro becomes the first winner of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So yeah, it was like I said, it was a tale of two halves. First half not so great, filler, didn't really get too much from it, but then the second half was actually quite good and fun. There was a load of stuff going on, and yeah, there were some nice moments in this one. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I think in terms of battle royals at WrestleMania, this is one of the better ones I think we've seen, because they normally are just a little bit like a time filler, bathroom break, if you will, whatever sort of situation. Doesn't feel important, but I think the presentation worked for this one, and definitely the late stages, the second half of this match, sort of proved to be somewhat respectable in that sense. But yeah, Nick, what did you make of this one? The battle royals could be a little bit hit and miss. Was it a hit or a miss for you?
Well, I think one of the issues with these battle royals is, yeah, as you mentioned, putting them on the pre-show. What more of a way can you say? Well, this doesn't really mean that much. Had they kind of kept these on the actual Mania card, perhaps we're still kind of putting some significance on them. And this kind of took place with a ladder match, which had always obviously been on the Mania stage as well. Was a good way to get some talent in there that didn't otherwise have anything to do. So I like this being on the main stage. And in terms of comparatively speaking, well, I guess this one's bittersweet for me, but as a battle royal, especially, I thought this was just a good match. I thought, battle royals have their highs and lows, as you kind of glossed over already, but this one being bittersweet because Cesaro being the inaugural winner quickly reminded me of their WWE's inability to get him over as a single star, and that was always disappointing. I felt like there was no reason why he couldn't, outside of the the promo bit, obviously not being a strong suit, but genuinely being, as they always said, pound for pound, one of the strongest guys, and he shows that off here as he lifts Big Show up seemingly pretty easily. Funny enough, that trophy at the end, it looked like he had a harder time picking that up than he did the Big Show. What a trophy that is. But yeah, bittersweet in that this felt like a big deal here, and obviously it doesn't now. So a bit sad and disappointed about that whole thing overall. But for this match and this moment for Cesaro, yeah, that was great. I gave it a 7 out of 10. We are really keeping close on our rating. No surprise, but this is really close for the two of us. But yeah, fun contest, and just yeah, it's a bit disappointing in what it has now become. But getting into the next match of the evening, another talking point. Honestly, I would argue the rest of the show has a lot of talking points. So buckle up. This one, John Cena versus the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt, going up or accompanied by Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. Um, yeah, KP, this is a topical one. I truly do forget, Bray Wyatt's intro and how over he truly was with the crab. This is just such a unique gimmick and just such a unique feel for this match. But I don't ever see many positive things about this match. But what do you make of this one? And what was your rating for this?
I wonder if this is the turning point for us with our ratings. I really am curious to see how this one goes down. In my opinion, I like this match. I really do. I think it's good. I think it has a lot of layers to it. The in-ring work, the character work, the combination between just the pure craziness seemingly of Bray Wyatt and the sort of more down-to-earth normality of John Cena. I thought it was like a sort of like a moment where worlds collide here, really, in the ring. He's got two completely different personalities and styles, and they're clashing, and it makes for a really intriguing contest. Obviously, you've not just got these two involved; you've got Harper and Rowan on the outside, and they sort of like have their say throughout the matchup as well, playing interference and being distractions, causing a bit of a problem for John Cena on parts. And yeah, it just sort of shows the levels that John Cena has to go through in order to get a result in this one. But the mind games, especially from Bray Wyatt here, made this one so interesting for me. It just took it to another level. I felt like because of that sort of addition to the matchup, it sort of gave it that extra sort of like uniqueness, like you said, obviously, and sort of intrigueness to it. But yeah, I found myself loving it. I really, really did. Harper and Rowan, like I said, were involved here and there, and Cena literally had to go through to take them both out. He dove off of the ropes at one point, seemingly going to take out Bray Wyatt, and then he just suddenly turns and dives onto Harper and Rowan. We see John Cena sort of spear type maneuver onto Harper through the barricade in the corner by the timekeeper's area. And then in the closing stages, we'll quickly transition to that right now. Bray hits Sister Abigail onto Cena, and Cena kicks out at 2. Bray goes to the ringside to grab a steel chair, basically trying to sort of like figure out what he needs to do. And mind games, of course. He brings it into the ring, gives the chair to John Cena, and he tells Cena to finish him off, and basically to achieve his legacy. Rowan at this point is on the apron, which transitions from my earlier point, and Cena goes and he's got the chair in his hand. He sees Rowan and obviously Bray telling him to to finish himself, and Cena, instead of attacking Bray, hits Eric Rowan with the steel chair, takes him down, which sort of opens up an opportunity for Bray Wyatt, who looks for his Sister Abigail. John Cena reverses it, though, into his second attitude adjustment of the matchup, and that would be enough to get the victory here for Cena. I think the main criticism from this one is that a lot of people wanted Bray Wyatt to win, and honestly, I completely get it. I understand that in terms of, just generally how, we look back on this one. This actually was, this result in this match actually comes into, I guess, canon again, you could say, years and years down the line when these two meet again at WrestleMania. So, I think the result itself does sort of leave a couple of questions. Maybe they could have given it to Bray. Would have been a really, big win for him. But in terms of the matchup itself, result aside, I just thought it was really good. It was really back and forth. The mental and the mind games were crazy. The clash of styles and just generally just the intrigueness of the matchup just really made everything work for me. So I got no issues with this one. I thought it was really solid. I gave it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, I'm on the side of the coin that actually likes this one. But what about you, Nick? Is this where we do differ, or is it again we're singing from the same hymn sheet?
Yeah, believe it or not, listeners, we do not talk about ratings before these videos, and I know I know KP's rating about 5 seconds before I come back on, so there would be no way to change this. Um, but yeah, my rating is at 7.5. And kind of the same reasons you kind of mentioned was I like the different feel this match had. I like the mind games from Bray Wyatt and just genuinely felt like a fun and very unique contest. Really, really had me intrigued. And I'm not, I'm not the biggest Cena fan. I've made that quite clear. And yeah, Bray Wyatt just brings this very interesting dynamic, and I was here for it. My biggest complaints for this match is kind of the same thing you've hit on, and is I feel like the wrong person won, and kind of the way they were booking the match is, have Cena turn to that darker side. He never did. Therefore, I feel like it would have made more sense, especially the way the fallout of this works. I feel like if Cena didn't turn to the dark side, I think it could have made a better going forward and kind of more intrigue had Cena not turned, and then therefore Bray Wyatt gets the win. So I think that kind of, as you've already alluded to, was the biggest issue I have with this. But in terms of what we got as the match, I think it was great. It was something different. I really, really liked this one. But in terms of Cena beating Bray Wyatt, this reeks of like a Triple H beating Booker T kind of moment at WrestleMania. I just think genuinely one of the worst calls, because if Bray wins here, I think, even more so than he was, just absolutely shoots up the ladder. And rightfully so, because he just has a very interesting gimmick, and he's, decent in the ring. And that's just based on his gimmick, I think alone should have had the green light to beat Cena here. I think that would have been a great moment. I don't really think. I think just creates intrigue going forward. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for me. Yeah, like I said, I don't see a lot of positives for this match, but clearly KP and I kind of disagree with the majority here. Very interesting contest. Speaking of interesting contests, shall we go ahead and get into this next match? I venture to say this will probably be the longest match discussion by far. What can we say that hasn't already been said, a million times, I'm sure, on the IWC and within videos about, but we'll give it our best shot. We have Brock Lesnar going up against The Undertaker at 21-0. KP, what you got?
here's the bat and run with it, right? I guess this is the moment. Yeah, like you said, there's not a lot really to say that hasn't already been said in various places, but we'll have our say and we'll see what we can make of this one. Yeah, I think this gets overshadowed by the result, in my opinion. Personally speaking, I'm not the biggest Brock Lesnar fan. In fact, I don't like him at all. But what I will say is, for this matchup, I thought it was decent. I really, really do. But it sort of comes as a double-edged sword here because it's a decent matchup, sure. It was not one of Undertaker's best WrestleMania matches, and it sort of starts this like physical demise that you see of the Undertaker because I think it becomes evident that he is getting to the later stages of his career, and not all things last forever. The streak can't just keep on going and going and going. Eventually, it does have to sort of like come to an end, unless he just called it a day at 20 and 21-0. But yeah, I think when he gets to this sort of stage of his career, it does become a bit more realistic here that he would eventually just like slip up and maybe meet his match. It was kind of uncomfortable to watch in parts, because I think you just saw the strain that the match took on the Undertaker. Obviously, someone as physical as Brock Lesnar, he's extremely powerful, explosive. Just he's not a normal competitor to go in the ring against. He brings something that a lot of others really don't in terms of just pure power and aggression. And I think Undertaker doesn't really have, in the recent years, obviously you got the likes of Shawn Michaels and CM Punk, obviously different sort of games they're going to bring to that. Maybe Triple H is the closest thing to Lesnar. I'm not saying he's like him, but it's the closest thing out of the last like 5 years. But that's a different scale to this. But yeah, it was kind of an onslaught from Lesnar. He attacks the legs for a large part of the early contest, sort of like helping set up the later stages because Taker looks really weak. And he can't really stay on his feet. He doesn't have that power game that obviously we've seen him utilize over the years. And yeah, because of just the assault on the legs, it is a quite physical contest, which goes up until those late stages. We see Hell's Gate being locked in by the Undertaker, sort of like how he would sort of win a couple of matches in WrestleMania. Just those last ditch, lock it in, just get a result, and just keep the streak going. He would do that on Lesnar, but this time it wouldn't quite work. He would lock it in once, Lesnar would slam him down to the canvas. He would lock it in again, and the same situation once more. So yeah, that wasn't going to work this time for him. But he wanted to, he needed to show how desperate he was to keep that streak going. I think that worked out quite nicely in that sense. It was a slow match for the vast majority. It was a brawl more than a wrestling contest. But I think they all come with their ups and their downs, I think it's fair to say. As we see the match come into, the late stages of this one, Undertaker hits a tombstone power driver onto Lesnar, but he does kick out at 2. Taker looks for a second tombstone after seemingly getting into a position where he's rolling and he's, feeling the energy and he's just piecing things together to try and get that result. But Lesnar reverses the second tombstone attempt into a third F5 of the match. Undertaker's already kicked out of 2 of them prior to this occasion. And that third F5, lands and gives Brock Lesnar the win, the shocking win. And yeah, the stunned sort of eerie feeling in the audience just sort of locks right in as soon as that hand hits the count of 3. Just when I do these matches, when I review the matches, I tend to sort of like go straight to my phone afterwards because it's right on the memory. I can just write it right down. For this one, you literally have to just watch all of the reactions from the crowd because it's just everybody is in complete shock. Like no one expected it. Even someone like Brock Lesnar, no one actually thought it would happen. And just because of that reason, everyone is just completely struck by the situation. It is quite an iconic moment in that sense. Obviously, we've got the just say yes guy that I had to put him in this one because you got to include that. It's a meme, absolutely viral image. So yeah, it just encapsulates the sort of general vibe once that referee did count to 3. But yeah, like I say, absolute shock. The energy is completely sapped out of the arena once that match comes to an end. And Lesnar's announced the winner. This is probably a good, I don't know, maybe minute after the match ends. And there's no music at this point, which honestly is a really good decision from the production team to wait until Lesnar announces the winner, like a good minute and a half afterwards. And then, even still, there's a good 10 seconds afterwards until Lesnar's music starts playing. And then it's sort of like, it gives that opportunity for everyone to sort of like, just to realize what actually has just happened. But yeah, it's not met well by the fans. There are a mix of boos as well as obviously the stunned silence beforehand. And yeah, we then see Lesnar and Heyman walking up the ramp. Taker slowly gets to his feet, given a standing ovation by the commentary team. In fact, I say the commentary team, all of them. I think there's the French, Spanish, and the English-speaking commentary team. They were all up on their feet, clapping away. And yeah, the fans obviously doing the same thing as well. Taker makes his way up the ramp to applause from the crowd as his music starts to play. And yeah, then we see the curtain closing on the legendary WrestleMania streak. It's a decision I disagree with. It really is. I don't think Lesnar should have been the one to end this. I think that it could have gone to somebody maybe looking to sort of like really break through, whereas Lesnar was already an established name at the time and was definitely a menace to not to be reckoned with. So I don't really think it was the right call, but that's just my opinion. But removing the result from the match itself, I gave this one a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it wasn't one of Taker's best matches at Mania, but because of how big the occasion was, how, just iconic, I guess, those post post minute and a half, I guess is. Yeah, it just makes it for a really, really great sort of like moment to look back on, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's iconic and memorable. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. But the matchup was okay. It was good, but it wasn't like spectacular, but it wasn't bad either. So yeah, that's what I'm going with here. Okay, I think I've had my say. Nick, over to you. Here's your chance. What did you make of this one? Just yeah, rattle through all your feelings and just generally your opinions on what went down.
I feel like I'm in a bit of a therapy session here. Can you explain how you feel after watching this match? Um, Yeah, I'll try to go through my thoughts here. I think most or almost all of the things that I have written down here are things you've already hit. Shocker there, I guess. But yeah, I think what does kind of make sense of this match is no, it's not Taker's best match. But when you find out and you're digging around, you figure out kind of what was so off about this match. Taker was concussed earlier in this match, towards the beginning stages of it. So typically Taker is driving the match and kind of what goes down. But in this match, it is Lesnar who's directing most of this match. So then it makes more sense, hey, I understand now why this match doesn't feel like a typical Undertaker match because it's everything that's being done is being called by Lesnar, who, you've already mentioned it. I'll mention it. I've mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. I'm not a fan of Lesnar, arguably one of my least favorite. But his style is obviously very different than that of Taker's. So, given that, and given that Taker is concussed for, I believe, 80% of this match, 85%, I think all things considering, it went okay. I'd argue it actually went better than it should have. So, and with all that out of the way, just a couple of interesting facts thrown in with my emotions here. Even the ref didn't know Lesnar was winning until he made the count. Obviously, he has the headset in there. So, genuinely think 99% of the crowd here did not think this day would come, or at least here, because the absolute shift in tone of this dome, I feel like seismic is an understatement. The just say yes guy, I love that you put that on there, KP. One of the most memeable, I think. Yeah, I think you could argue either that or the Mad at the Miz girl. I think probably the two most iconic. I both are great, but I think I might have to give this one the slight edge. His jaw on the floor. We've seen all this. We've seen this meme for years. Because just watching this match again with that unexpected ending, it gives me this feeling that I honestly struggled to put into words. Like, just my whole. I can't describe the feeling that when I see that match and the crowd reaction, the kind of way I feel just like emotionally towards this match. Because this was just before I got back into wrestling, and so I wasn't watching religiously, but I was still watching on occasion, and I would check in on things like the Taker streak because just because I wasn't watching it in week in week out, I still kept an eye on these kind of people that I was passionate about. But yeah, um, I remember checking in on this and just seeing that and just being flabbergasted and having to go watch it, obviously. But the booze absolutely raining down here. The number of jaws on the floor, hands on heads, eyes just not able to believe what they just witnessed, conflicted with the thoughts of, I can't believe that just happened, with what a moment to be at live, to just general like sad tone of the arena. And then of course you get the bullshit chants raining through the arena as well, going through our stages of grief, if you will. And then had me thinking, wait, why can I hear all of this? Well, that's because, as you kind of alluded to as well, they didn't play any music for what felt like an eternity. And I genuinely, I think that was a fantastic call, as you said. It kind of helps you soak in them. Like, even the commentators didn't say anything for a bit there, and when they did, they were very hesitant to do so. So have all of that coupled with the kind of emotion from the arena. The announcer finally says something about Brock winning, and then a couple minutes later, I think, then the actual music starts playing. But just to kind of that whole, it truly is one of the most special moments, I think, that I can recall in WWE, for better or worse, whether you like it or not. You can't argue that it was effective. And so, with all of that, going on, I think it was a good call to have him do that, to kind of, so you could really take in the feel of the arena. Um, I genuinely don't believe, couple kind of maybe hot takes here. I genuinely don't believe Brock would still be with that company. And I definitely don't believe he would have been booked as strong as he has been since this moment if it wasn't for this match. Obviously, this is a very big character boost for this victory provided for him, because if they don't utilize that, then what was the point? And further to that, I agree with you, KP. I don't think Brock should have been the one to win this. I have no issues with the streak ending. I just think, as you said, should have been someone that could have utilized it more than Brock did. After this, I kind of felt like maybe this could have been Taker's last match. Taker doesn't have a ton of matches after this. He only has 19 after this, and honestly, quality really does start to dip, as you alluded to as well. But yeah, I think honestly, hindsight, this could have been the last match. And I think it would have been I would have been okay with that. It would have made it more impactful, I think, too. But we don't see Undertaker after this match until next year's WrestleMania. So in terms of in-ring actions. So my rating is a 7 out of 10. I try to separate the match from the moment. Obviously, if it's a moment, you have to give it a 10 out of 10. Whether you hate it or not, it's impactful. But in terms of in-ring action, especially considering the concussed Undertaker and Lesnar steering, yeah, give this one a 7 out of 10. It's better than it should have been, as far as I'm concerned. With that, we will take an emotional break. Getting into the next match, which is the Vickie Guerrero Divas Invitational, with AJ Lee as the champion. And this is the first time the Divas Championship is being defended on the WrestleMania stage. Crazy that we have that statistic at WrestleMania 30. Um, and honestly, WWE, you are a jerk for putting this match on after that streak. These women didn't stand a chance. KP, what did you make of this one?
I'm glad you brought that up, because thrown to the wolves is literally the way you can describe this situation, because this was brutal. Um, Putting anything on after what we just saw is gonna be difficult. Like, I'm not saying that this would have been the reaction for every single match that we would have seen afterwards, but you have a moment like we just saw with the Undertaker losing his streak, and the energy in the arena is just completely gone and done. The commentary team, I made a note about this, they also were basically the same. In fact, I think they spent the first third of this match, maybe even half of it, just talking about the previous match. Like, they weren't even really referencing anything that was happening, except for like the odd little bit here and there. It had the strangest vibe to it. But yeah, it was literally just almost as if they put this one here just because they needed something to distract the crowd, and to let them sort of take the moment in that just happened, and then they can get to the main event afterwards. It sounds harsh, but that's literally what I got from it in terms of the vibe and sort of the general sort of appreciation levels from anyone in the arena for this matchup, yeah, they weren't really there. As for how the match went down itself, though, it wasn't very good either. So it wasn't even like the women in the ring made up for what was, seemingly just an impossible sort of job they were performing here. Most of it just felt really flat and not important whatsoever. It was essentially just pure filler until the finish. That's what I've got written down here, and there's absolutely the vibe that it maintained throughout. And yeah, with most of the women having taken each other out at ringside, we just see Naomi and AJ Lee left in the ring. AJ locks in the Black Widow, and as Naomi drops down to one knee, the camera sort of pans around to one side to AJ Lee. This is with the referee sort of POV as well, near enough. And yeah, we see the match coming to an end. Like, you can just about see Naomi's hand tapping, and obviously the referee does notice that, so rings for the bell. So AJ Lee wins the matchup, retains the Divas Championship via submission over Naomi, obviously getting a victory in this contest. And we see on the replays then afterwards, actually AJ Lee held the hand of Naomi, well, the wrist sort of thing of Naomi, and as she went down onto one knee, AJ literally just forced her hand in, like, to tap onto the mat. So it was actually AJ making Naomi tap out, quite literally and figuratively. So yeah, quite interesting for sure there. This actually saw the the last championship victory for AJ Lee in this historic reign as the longest Divas champion up until this point, because somebody would appear the next night on Monday Night Raw and would change the entire landscape. So yeah, this was quite a way to, I guess, end the reign of AJ Lee. But yeah, obviously winning this match going into the following night, it just had a really strange vibe and flow to it. It just wasn't. It wasn't appreciated. It wasn't. It almost felt like it wasn't welcome, and it was just a really bad positioning in the card for it to be in. It was harsh. It was brutal, and yeah, they literally had them just be here just to save some time for the main event, just to try and get the crowd back into a little bit of interest levels because of what just happened. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10. I think that might be generous, to be honest with you, but I feel bad for these ladies because they were dealt a very bad hand and they couldn't do anything with it. Nick, go on, have at it. How did this one go for you?
Yeah, I think once again you covered most of my points, and I don't. Even if this match was anywhere else on the card, I don't think it would have been better received, at least from me. But especially after, and this is that infamous slot. We've mentioned this on several manias before. The penultimate match, the match before the main event, it is very hit and miss, mostly miss. Um, and this one's no exception. This like I said, nowhere in the card would this match fit because it just wasn't a good match. There's no sugarcoating that. Even like the Vickie Guerrero entrance where she does the excuse me bit, just god awful. I hate that. I hate that character choice. But even the crowd usually gives it a reaction. Dead silent. Didn't. We're not in the mood to be joking around. Um, and you mentioned the commentary team. The commentary team had acted like Undertaker just passed away. It was a very strange feel in the arena. Um, yeah, AJ Lee gets the win here. For whatever. All the action that took place before that was just sloppy at best. Very few positives to take away here. Um, yeah, I really honestly have nothing else nice to say or anything to say that you haven't already said. So AJ Lee gets the win here. Make of that what you will. Someone had to be put in that contest unless you had put Taker and Lesnar as the last match, which I would definitely listen to that argument. But I think the match they did put that we're getting into next was probably the right call. But let's go ahead and get into that. Oh, sorry, rating wise, we gave it a 3 out of 10. Yeah, I did think you were being a bit generous, KP. But yeah, 3 out of 10 for me. Regardless, we can both agree that this was not a good match. Getting into the main event, we have the Animal Batista going up against Daniel Bryan and his Yes movement. Obviously, he's here because he won that opening contest, going up against the Viper Randy Orton for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Um, yeah, it's just continuing the emotional roller coaster that we are on. KP, thoughts on this main event of WrestleMania 30?
Yeah, we go from something that was pretty bad, previously to something that was pretty damn good. This main event was quality. Yeah, really, really great matchup. Also we saw what happened earlier in the night with Triple H and Daniel Bryan. That was quite hellacious anyway. And then you have to go into another match afterwards with two guys the level of Randy Orton and Batista. Yeah, I mean, Daniel Bryan was not in an enviable position here, but he was in the support of everybody in that arena because they were going crazy for him throughout this matchup. Yeah, we saw a lot going on here. There's a lot to unravel. Bryan selling the effects of the earlier contest against Triple H. Randy Orton and Batista trying their hardest to get rid of Bryan for like the majority of the matchup, really. We see Triple H and Stephanie McMahon coming in and having their say at one point, bringing in their crooked referee, who actually gets dealt with pretty quickly by Daniel Bryan. Batista hits a Batista bomb onto Bryan, kicks out at 2, and then Bryan's down for a little while afterwards, and he does actually kick the referee in the head, and he then does a bit of a diving attack to all three, actually, to Triple H, the referee, and to Stephanie McMahon. So a bit of a 3-for-1 deal there for Daniel Bryan. But yeah, once he deals with that whole situation, Triple H tries to get back into the ring. He tries bringing in a sledgehammer, and actually Daniel Bryan takes the sledgehammer from Triple H before he can do anything with it. He hits Triple H right across the face with the sledgehammer, causing him to crash to ringside. We see the end of Triple H and Stephanie and all that lot at that point. They will get escorted to the back. So then it's back to just obviously the three men in the ring. Not too long afterwards, we do see a RKO Batista bomb combination from Randy and Batista onto Daniel Bryan through an announce table on the outside. And that seemingly takes Daniel Bryan out of the matchup. He's put on a stretcher, and lots of medicals and whatever around him, basically just trying to escort him to the back. They take an age to get him onto it and to actually start, taking him onto the ramp. But yeah, once they do so, he violently gets up, fights off the the medics, and gets back into the matchup to the dismay of I think Randy Orton at the time. He sort of like goes and tries to deal with Bryan, does so for a moment. Then we go into our late stages of the matchup, which was quite fun because we see a lot of close moments and drama, like some big kickouts here and there. From every man in those late stages, there seems to be a lot of situations going on with that. And we see Batista hitting a Batista bomb onto Randy Orton. Before Batista can even capitalize, literally probably like a good second and a half after he lands that Batista bomb, we just see Daniel Bryan just hit a flying knee out of seemingly nowhere after being at ringside just previously to this. And he knocks down Batista with it. He locks in the yes lock, and that would see this matchup come to an end because he would win via submission, tapping out the Animal Batista. So this was a really crazy sort of situation, this one, because from what I've heard, Batista has signed a contract to come back to WWE, winning the Royal Rumble, and apparently he had a clause in his contract to win a World Championship. And he apparently, I'm not sure if this is true, but this is what I've heard, he had said to WWE that he agreed with the Yes movement and actually said that that was bigger than his sort of clause in his contract. I'm not sure what because you're normally the stats guy, Nick, but I did see this one last night when I was having a little look around. We'll see if you got a little bit of a follow-up from that in a little bit. Feel free to correct me if you've heard different as well. But yeah, I heard about that, and that just maybe brings a bit of respect towards Batista for that. But yeah, in terms of the moment, it was absolutely iconic as hell. We see Daniel Bryan with both championships. He's doing the yes chants with them. The crowd are going absolutely crazy. The pop once he wins is phenomenal. The stadium is loud. And I think, yeah, it just shows that, I guess, with a little bit of time, the crowd can get back into it after that, obviously, deflating Undertaker loss to Brock Lesnar. But yeah, it was a really, really great contest. The drama was through the roof. The selling from Daniel Bryan, like I mentioned, and just generally speaking, the character work of Batista and Batista and Randy Orton trying to sort of keep Daniel Bryan at bay, keep him out of the conversation, and just sort of dealing with those two, because that was the match beforehand, before this whole insertion was announced with Daniel Bryan and the Triple H thing beforehand. So yeah, they sort of tried to make it just between themselves, but they didn't really have much of an opportunity to do so. But yeah, really great, wholesome moments. I think probably one of the best feel-good moments in wrestling. Like, generally speaking, whether it's WrestleMania, whether it's WWE, I just think it's one of those absolutely top notch feel good moments. So yeah, just a really iconic victory and reaction and moment and everything that went into it. It was kind of glorious. It really, really was. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. I absolutely loved the main event. I thought it was solid as hell. And yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Nick, what did you make of this one? Just everything that goes into it, there's a lot. And I think you said that this was sort of like part of the reason you got back into watching wrestling more regularly because of the Yes movement and what it sort of did at the time. It must be really great for you to look back on it as well and just to sort of like relive it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, so that you are correct. This and the streak being defeated were two things that clearly WWE is on a roll. Got me back into it, and then started getting back into it in 2014, and by 2015 I was full fledged, kind of what we are now, watching it week in week out. So yeah, this was kind of the jumping point, starting point, if you will. Um, but yeah, Batista, I have heard that as well. Picking Daniel Bryan, realizing that something was bigger than himself. Rightfully so too. Maybe it is just respecting the business, but could also be knowing just the fact that you know well, I know damn sure that if anyone wins outside of Daniel Bryan, they're not going to be well received. So even if he is a heel at the time, it just wouldn't have been a good call. This all kind of coupled with the fact that obviously CM Punk was supposed to be heavily featured on this Mania as well, but obviously that pipe bomb was earlier in the year, so that obviously wasn't the call either. So yeah, lots of interesting bits here for this match that again, notes are similar, but essentially anyone that isn't Daniel Bryan here is booed out of the arena. And as if the odds weren't stacked enough already, that Batista bomb RKO through the tables, I thought was absolutely brutal. And one of the kind of the nitpicks I have on this match is that did they do too much to handicap Bryan? It is a thought I have going through my head from the first match to what happened after the first match to what happens during this match. But if you think about it, the way they kind of did this is really well done, in that it gives him some time off essentially. I know he's recovering, if you will, but it then gives Daniel Bryan, or excuse me, Randy Orton and Batista some time to kind of weaken each other while Daniel Bryan is recovering, quote unquote, and then gets back in the ring. So I think that part is great, in that it kind of allows them to get closer to the same page. Obviously, Daniel Bryan's still feeling the effects of that spot, but it allows for their opponents to be weaker, and I think that's a good. I think that was a good choice for this one, but yeah, the medical team taking him out, and we've seen it once, we've seen it quite a few times, but this one was special, at least to me. The finishers being passed out there at the end with Daniel Bryan hitting that knee out of nowhere, if you will, to lock in that yes lock. I thought that was just great. Dubbed the miracle on Bourbon Street, thought it was a great call from Michael Cole. And a couple of fun additional stats to what you've already provided. I assumed that, because I didn't know the timeline here. The woman in the ring was his sister and daughter. I actually genuinely didn't know who that was. I thought maybe that was a past a girlfriend or something, but no, it's his daughter. And because of that, apparently Brie Bella was stopped at Gorilla when trying to come out and celebrate with Daniel Bryan, because they weren't quite ready to announce their kind of romance yet. I think they were engaged at the time, or almost engaged, something around there. And another interesting stat here, that this is the very first WrestleMania where every single winner was under the age of 40. So obviously we've hit on that many, many times. WWE has always struggled kind of turning the page, focusing on the new instead of the old. But this was kind of the first time that they did that. So a good sign of things to come going forward for WWE. And again, probably one of the many reasons why I tuned in. Just a lot of new faces, fresh stories, and iconic moments. And this WrestleMania does not provide any shortage of said moments. So, rating overall for me, yeah, this is probably my second favorite WrestleMania moment behind WrestleMania 20 main event. I don't think this match is as good as that one, but still very, very good. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. Just a ton of fun. One of the best WrestleMania main events, in my opinion. but and just certainly an all-time moment when it comes to Daniel Bryan winning that title, kind of coupled with the main event from 20 winner, and just that kind of feeling that these guys would have never gotten to that point. So it truly was a special moment. But yeah, with that WrestleMania 30, what a wild ride it was. Moments out the wazoo. KP, give us your kind of now that we are essentially three-fourths the way done with this WrestleMania project. Let us know where WrestleMania 30 stands in your books in terms of just overall rating, highlights. My super highlights are pretty similar here, but just a general vibe here, and we'll go ahead and get this one wrapped up.
Yeah, so when I did my sort of overall review of this one, I had a look back at my ratings for the previous WrestleManias that we've gone through already, obviously up until 30, and I've noticed that actually I've now got 5 WrestleManias that are 7 out of 10 as a minimum. So this one does creep into my top 5 WrestleManias up until this point. So yeah, I guess you could say it's up there with the better of them for me. I did give it a 7 out of 10. That's an average of the all my matches put together as like an average result. And yeah, I think the highs are pretty much as to be expected, like you said. The opener, the main event, both Daniel Bryan matches, involved in them. And not only that, but I also want to give a little bit of a shout out to Bray Wyatt and John Cena, just because of how fun the match was and how interesting it was for me personally. I just really liked it. So yeah, I don't really have any issues with that matchup itself. I thought it was good. And yeah, just generally speaking, across the card, I thought it was quite a solid Mania. Yeah, sure, there was one or two slip ups through that, but besides those, yeah, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch, and yeah, one of the better ones for sure out of the 30 we've seen so far. So yeah, I mean, just one of those iconic moments. Daniel Bryan winning the titles, main event, underdog story, the Yes movement, all of that. Just and sensational, really. And then obviously, the Undertaker streak coming to an end. It's something that we disagree with, but it's iconic as hell. So yeah, so many sort of visuals from that we see so often. Still to this day. You're talking like what a good 12 years later. So it is crazy how that sort of like still gets played now. But yeah, just a solid show. Really liked it for what it was worth, and yeah, really enjoyed watching it. Nick, what about you though? Where's it rank amongst your sort of WrestleManias so far? 30 down. We're getting through them, but yeah, where does this sort of like hold its place in your grand scheme of things so far?
Well, what I am glad, as we've talked about this throughout our mania review, and that is kind of does nostalgia cloud our judgment sometimes, and I'm kind of worried about that one with this one, or that kind of thing, because going back through it well, before going back through it, this was always kind of one of my favorite manias. It still still stands up, safely to say, based on our ratings. I too gave this one a 7. No shocker, basically all our ratings were pretty much the same. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for me. Genuinely, um, I've watched all the manias after this as they occurred, obviously, but this one is a top 3 for me, and I don't think that's going to change as we go through the rest of these manias. But just genuinely one of the best moments, obviously, between the streak and the Yes movement. You were going to be hard pressed to kind of ruin it. As a generally speaking, don't take that as a challenge, WWE, but you were hard pressed to kind of mess that up. But those were 2 moments. Yeah, and as you did, I loved. I didn't love. I like the John Cena Bray Wyatt match as well. It doesn't deserve the hate it gets outside of maybe the booking decision, but other than that, the match itself was very good. Um, and yeah, your main event there, of course, one of the best main events of all time on the WrestleMania stage, or ever, I might say. Just truly a very, very special and iconic moment. But with that WrestleMania 30 in the books, curious to hear what you all thought of it. What were your highlights? What were your low points? I have a feeling we'll be saying some similar things in the comments, but please do let us know what your thoughts are, and what was your rating for WrestleMania 30. We'd love to hear from you. In addition to liking the video if you like what we're putting out here, and subscribing, as that does help us out very much. But with that, WrestleMania 30 in the books. Yeah, we'll continue to pump these out. Crazy, we are three-fourths of the way done with this WrestleMania project. It's been a ride for sure, but we are very much enjoying putting them out there, and hopefully you are enjoying them as well. But until next time, this has been the push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.